Okay, so I don't know what I'm going to call this video, but I do think it's one that I kind of want to make as like a real short thing, but I'm not going to do anything real huge about it. This is just a little rant of mine. I've been talking to some people, and some of this is I should go touch grass, which is, I would if there wasn't 8 to 10 inches of snow on the ground. But I'm definitely going to go take a breather for a little bit. I got into it with a couple people on Discord over free software. And I'm just going to let you know, I am not somebody who lives and breathes free software. I think it's great. The Linux is great. The fact that it's open is great. And I do use many pieces of software that are free and open, even open source. Though I wouldn't say I made it a religion. And I think that is something that we need to talk about for a minute, because holy crap, some of these people are just like, when has your software become a religion? I use Linux, specifically Linux Mint, because it offers me a better experience than Windows can. If that changed tomorrow, I'd be back on Windows. I wouldn't think anything of it, and I'd be like, well, that was a fun escapade while it lasted. But that's just not the case. Windows continues to get worse, and Linux Mint just continues to get better slowly. What this was over free and proprietary software. Free and open source software, proprietary closed source software. I was talking to a gentleman, who was talking about different CAD related stuff, and I said, yeah, I was setting up a VM on my Proxmox. We were talking about Proxmox, that's what it was. And in this Proxmox conversation, we were talking about somebody came in and asked for a Linux distro recommendation, and we all kind of like, you could just use about anything. You should start with Linux Mint. If that doesn't meet your needs, then you could move on to other distros, but you should start somewhere to learn, okay? And we talk about this, but you really should start at a good foundation and move on. So we got into it with Proxmox because, the guy mentioned that the Proxmox helper scripts, they have people all the time use these helper scripts blindly with no context at all, and then they bork their Proxmox and wonder why. And it's because some of these scripts are not very well maintained. They're poorly maintained. And that can happen, to be fair. I use one just to turn off the nag that your subscription isn't being paid, because I'm using the free version of Proxmox because I'm just playing with VMs. It doesn't matter. If I had a commercial deployment of some kind, I would do a commercial license. But I don't. This is a play toy. I don't care. And that's what I use that script for, and that's what it's meant for, is for people like me who just want to use the community repos and the community edition. Don't want to get nagged to go pay for their software. Donate if you want to, by all means. For me, just to play around with, I see no point in that. Now, where this kind of took a turn, as I mentioned that I was setting up a Windows VM for SolidWorks, because as some of you know, and those who don't know are about to get a little education, I am a mechanical engineer by trade. And as a result, I use industry CAD software, industry software in general. So when I got an opportunity, I haven't been doing a lot of CAD here at home because I've been really busy at work, but I've been getting back into it. Got my 3D printer working, video on it soon, hopefully. And I ended up just getting an excellent deal. I've been trying different FOSS solutions to CAD and 3D printing, and I think I found a slicer that works okay, and I can use that. It's an open source one. It's Super Slicer, I believe it's called. That seemed to work pretty well. There were some hitches with it I might be able to fix, but maybe not. I don't know. Could just be my mini PC controlling the printer. Could be something else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. The fun part is I need CAD software to make the models that go in there, or at least to look at the models that I put in there and modify them and do all sorts of nonsense. And well, for the last 5 years at the place I've worked at, we use SolidWorks. That's what I know. I've got 5 years experience there. Before that, I used Creo and NX at the company I worked at before. And then previous to working in the industry, I had like 6 years of self-taught Autodesk experience with AutoCAD, 3ds Max, and mostly Autodesk Inventor. I was an Inventor shill, basically, to all of my engineering friends. And up until a few years ago, I was getting an education license. Well, they tightened up those requirements. I just can't get a free student version of Inventor anymore, and paying for one, it's like $3,000 or $4,000. I'm not doing that. I would prefer not to sail the 7 seas for my software. So I was stuck with, okay, well, what can I reasonably afford? And to that end, Fusion 360 was an option. It's still a Windows-only software. Complete and utter pile of dog crap. Do not use that piece of shit and let Autodesk know it's terrible. It was terrible when I saw it got launched back in like 2015, and it still got awful. I tried using Solid Edge. Siemens makes Solid Edge, which is a similar style program to NX. It's not particularly good either, and running it through Wine or a virtual machine was very hit or miss. It does exist. There is a community edition. It's free. It's probably something I'll use going forward if I just don't have the money to pay for SolidWorks or something like that, or if I don't find another solution in the long term. It didn't really fit my needs. It was a little clunky, but I could have made it work for free. PTC also tightened up their requirements for educational software because I was getting a Creo license every year. Well, they tightened that up. I can't get that anymore. Their free Creo is like Direct Elements or something like that. It's god-awful. It's not even a true CAD software. I don't even know what it is. Piece of shit from what I've seen. So yeah, I'm a little biased in terms of wanting a SolidWorks-like experience, but I could work with a lot of different softwares. I mostly need something to 3D model, to do basic drawings, assembly drawings, diagrams for laying out housing projects and stuff, because one of the things that I like to do here at home is take home improvement projects that I work on and lay them out in CAD to be able to kind of spatially understand where things can go, and what might fit, what we need to do, that sort of thing. One in particular I wanted to do as an example was to create a diagram of my own house, color-coded to be what breaker controls what part of the house. That way I can easily pull up a PDF and go, yeah, we'll turn that breaker off. I mean, I could read the box, but in the heat of the moment, it would be nice to just have a diagram that I could just be like, yep, here we go. This is how this should be. So what I ended up doing is I got a smoking deal on SolidWorks for makers. This is something that hasn't existed until this year, maybe last year. And it's gotten really cheap. So the people at SolidWorks pretty much figured out that there is a hobbyist market that just wants to use their software and isn't out here trying to make a buck doing it. There are hobbyists that have a side gig that try to make money, and maybe someday that'll be me, but we'll worry about that later. For now, I'm just fucking around and finding out. So I just need the basic license, and I managed to snag it for $24 for an entire year. Yes, it's a subscription. You stop paying, software stops working. However, I can physically install SolidWorks and deal with local files. They are earmarked as maker files, and I can't use them in any other version of SolidWorks, other than the maker version. But I can import them into other CAD softwares and use them as long as it's a non-commercial deal. But I get to work with local files, which is what I want. Many people suggested other things. We talked about Onshape is one. Their way of doing assemblies is so asinine. I felt my intelligence was insulted trying to use it. Their part creation is just okay. It's a typical PTC Creo product. It's about half-baked, but if you know Creo like the back of your hand, perhaps it makes sense. I don't, personally. And so I went with SolidWorks because that's what I know, that's what I use at work, that's what I have experience in. I've been experimenting with different virtual machines, trying to get things to work. I tried my VFIO PCI pass-through with the integrated GPU on my server. It didn't work out. And now I have 2 Windows virtual machines that I'm experimenting with. One's Windows 10 IoT LTSC. The other is a Windows 11 LTSC IoT. And those are simply just seeing if I can do a remote desktop session to use the SolidWorks and if that's good enough performance. So far, just running it in the web viewer in Proxmox seems okay. I think I had some experience doing it through Spice, through the Spice viewer or Vert viewer. That seemed to work okay. Performance isn't great. From what I've seen so far, VMware Workstation is the best. It's actually recommended by SolidWorks if you're going to virtualize it. Like, they know if you run a Mac, you're going to virtualize it. So they actually recommend VMware. I found a version of VMware that's not totally fucked and figured out how to compile the kernel modules for it in a way that won't break my system. So we're going to have that as well as an option. Probably is going to be the way I'll do it. I don't know that I'll use my Proxmox to do a remote desktop for CAD. I've long tried to do that, and it always ended really clunkily for me, so there is that. But I got a solution for now. I got a whole year to figure out another CAD software, but for now I have SolidWorks, I know how it works, and it does good. What pissed me off in this conversation is somebody popped in and just decided to say, oh, you should use FreeCAD, and then posted a video of a guy using FreeCAD for 3D printing and how FreeCAD's the best thing ever. I don't even mean. FreeCAD is definitely one of the pieces of software of all time. I'm sure if you know what you're doing, it's great. I've been trying to learn it off and on for the past year. It's a pain in the fucking ass. Nothing is intuitive. It's very clunky. I've had it crash multiple times. I've tried both the native deb version. I've tried the app image. I've tried the Flatpak. It just seems like it's not a good piece of software. And maybe it's just me. It could actually just be me, but I worked on a project here, just as an example. I used the Flatpak. We have trim that goes around our furnace. We got a new furnace. And I wanted to figure out what size trim I needed to put around it. So I took a tape measure. I spent all morning doing this. So I had like 4 or 5 hours into it, modeling stuff out, modeling out the whole space, how high it was to the ceiling, what size the furnace was, that sort of thing. And I modeled all that as individual components, and then I assembled them in FreeCAD and saved everything. And while in the assembly view, I was getting everything put together, and I had it most of the way put together. I had a constraint that messed up, and so I deleted it, and then I pulled the part back in to reconstrain it, and the app froze. I don't know, maybe I clicked on something wrong. How they do constraints is a little different compared to SolidWorks. It's workable, but it's different. I kind of figured out a way to make it work. FreeCAD crashed. Okay, CAD software crashes. I used to bitch about SolidWorks crashing all the time anyway, for a few years ago. So like an Inventor, oh my God, Inventor crashed all the time. Fusion 360 is so much worse at that. Anyway, so it crashed and I was like, no big deal. I'd been working out of my downloads folder. I had been saving regularly. I figured I'd probably lost maybe 5 minutes of work, Go to open the file. Can't open the file. Okay. Well, maybe I just need to redo maybe it corrupted the assembly. I tried a couple times opening it. No dice. I said, okay, fine. One of the times it did open, it opened as a completely blank file. Like, okay, that's weird. So I said, okay, fine. So I started a brand new assembly and I tried to pull in the parts that I had spent all morning making into that assembly. Crashed. Somehow it corrupted all the files in the assembly. So I would have had to redo the last like 4 hours worth of work. I just said, fuck it. And I just gave up. I can't go into a project that many hours trying to do all the stuff to design trim to go around something so then I can go buy trim to just have it not fucking work and crap out and then waste my time. So yes, I will be continuing to try and learn FreeCAD, but that experience has scarred me enough that I'm not going to rely on FreeCAD for anything, which is terrible because one of the big key things I want to say here is not everything proprietary is good or better than the FOSS alternative. Not everything FOSS is better or as good as a proprietary solution. They both have their merits. I like LibreOffice. Actually, I like it better than Microsoft Office. Some of it is because I've seen the back end of the belly of the beast dealing with Excel VBA at work, and I really dislike Microsoft for that reason. But there's things like I tried learning Kdenlive, and I could get by on Kdenlive, but I could never rely on it. It was super unstable. They broke it every single update. Something went wrong. Render performance is awful. And not having proper 3D acceleration for basically anything means it's not a very fast app. And there's even other things too I've noticed. Like when I've been dealing with putting stuff on my Jellyfin server. Well, I have to rip from DVD to my computer, and then I have to cut some shows down because there are some shows like anime that are just one continuous clip for like 5 episodes. People are lazy. Well, if I pull that footage into Davinci Resolve, it picks up all the chapter markers that your DVD player would pick up, and I can just go boom, 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 cut all those episodes down in like less than a minute and render them out. Kdenlive, I have to do all that work manually because it doesn't recognize any of the chapter markers. Yeah. And then the render time is significantly longer, sometimes even longer than the clip itself. I don't understand. I don't know how it works, but it's just an example. There's a reason why I've decided to learn Davinci Resolve and not deal with Kdenlive. And maybe this, decides to... I can't English. Maybe this is something where I need to sit down and just show you guys my workflow, the software I use, and a little bit why I use these pieces of software. Because it's so weird, I use Firefox of all browsers. It's a piece of shit, don't get me wrong, but it works okay for what I do in a browser, and I still have Chrome. I was a Chrome guy for a while. There are other browsers out there, to be fair. I've tried most of them. And there are some other softwares, like I've been trying to move away from Trimble SketchUp, which used to be Google SketchUp. For a sci-fi project that I work on personally, I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, but it's something to work on my side time just for fun, because I'm a sci-fi guy. I like sci-fi. I like Star Trek, Star Wars, a little bit less. And all the other different shows and stuff. Like, I'm a big sci-fi guy. But back when I originally wrote that and we modeled a bunch of stuff out for it, we used SketchUp because it was free, it was easy to use, and it ran on our computers very well. It was very well optimized. I've been using the 2017 version of that app since it came out because Trimble, when they bought it from Google, well, I think you get the point. It's a web app now and it sucks. The performance is awful. And especially with my internet. Even though Starlink internet's pretty good, the latency just kills you. And the problem is, once you get it into the new SketchUp, you can't get it out. Versus the old SketchUp, you had tons of ways to get files in and out of it. It didn't care. So it's a mess. It's too bad because it's so intuitive to use. I will probably use it for another decade. I mean, it's a great piece of software. I would love to see it revitalized or decompiled and somebody make a FOSS version or something. I don't know. I'm just speaking off my head here. But one thing I have been wanting to do is learn Blender to get those files, those ships and different models I've done into Blender. So then I can just work in Blender and then learn Blender. But what a lot of people don't understand, when you sit here and learn a piece of software, you're not to sit here and tell somebody who's got a decade of experience in industry-leading software, hey, you should just throw that experience away and go use this FOSS app you've never heard of that works completely differently. You're being an asshole. You just are. I can't go up to somebody who's got 20 years of Photoshop experience and say, just go use GIMP. It's the same thing. It's not. Now, your grandmother who's just trying to, or I shouldn't say your grandmother, your mother or uncle or whatever who's just touching up some photos he took on his camera, GIMP's probably fine. He's not doing anything that requires the heavy lifting that Photoshop can do. But there are people I know of who use Adobe Premiere because it does the heavy lifting they want to do. And it does it in the way that they know. And that's fine. You use the right tool for the right job, you know. Kdenlive is not so atrocious I couldn't use it. It's just DaVinci's better. Even Lightworks would be better, and Lightworks is not great either. So, you know, when that guy actually kind of told me off about, I was like, well, SolidWorks is just better. I know it. Industry experience. I've got 5 years of SolidWorks, and I've got 11 years of other CAD software I've used. He sends me a video of a guy running FreeCAD through the SolidWorks certification to see if it could pass. And to be honest, that was a fuck you move. I don't know if he realized that or not, but that's just him just flipping me the bird, telling me you should just learn FreeCAD because this guy clearly can do anything in FreeCAD. He's probably an expert. He's probably spent years and years learning, you know. Literally use whatever works best. No one cares. But he gave me the neckbeard thing. And that's the one part of Linux that does irk me, is some of that toxicity. Look, if somebody uses a proprietary app and it's what works for them, just leave them alone. Don't beat them to death over these FOSS solutions. And if they use a FOSS app, don't beat them up to use proprietary solutions. Use what works best for you. It just irks me. I hate FOSS zealots, and I hate software zealots in general. People that will literally treat software as a religion should just be taken out back, all right? Throw them in the dumpster. It irks me to no end because you don't understand. So, I don't know what this is really about. It's probably a terrible video. I was just pissed off earlier, and I'm not even going to edit this. This is just going to go up on the channel as I hate software zealots, or software is not a religion, and move on. I'm not even going to get cute with it. So hopefully you guys enjoy the upcoming holidays. I will try to get one more video out this year if I can, 2 if I'm ambitious. I do have one almost done in the pipeline. And then I would like to do an end of year video. I'm still not sure what that's going to be, but I have some ideas for future content. So with that, y'all have a great day. I'm going to get off my soapbox and go have a beer. Cheers.